Hello, and welcome to my Week 7 contribution for the Deneb roguelike game project. As a note, I needed to refactor a lot of code to prepare secondary weapons for implementation in Week 6, so last week the bombs were added first because they were easier to create. This shifted my focus to work on building the bow and the wand this week. As I began, my group was discussing player animations. Through this discussion, I realized my code was very inefficient. When the player attacks with their secondary weapon, it calls the player controller script, which sets the attacking variable in the player, which checks for this change once per frame. This polling method is processor heavy and was a horrible way to notify the player of a change. Though this didn't have a negative impact on performance, this method wastes resources and is difficult to read in code. I then realized that the only variable I needed to change was here in the animator. I could get a reference to the animator through the player and directly change its value there. The animator would respond immediately, and the player controller would directly check if this value had changed. With a little research, I also found that scripts could be attached to the animations to add extra behavior. I utilized this to reset the attacking variable when the animation ended instead of resetting it every frame in the update function in the player controller, as you see here. This let me refactor my code to not only focus more on an event-driven code, but also remove a lot of unnecessary function calls. With this complete, I focused on adding more secondary weapons to the player. The bomb animation was set up, but I needed a way to disseminate between the weapons being used. Like with items, I defined each weapon using an enum, which would be set on the player when they picked up the specific object. Using this, I could then set the type of the weapon used in the animator and have the proper animation play when the Alt button was pressed. Like with the character movement and the bomb animations, these were also created for the bow and wand. These would be shown when transitioning to their respective states in the animator. Next, the damaging component was created. As a note, the ammo script you see was built last week when the bomb was created. However, as opposed to the bomb ammo, I needed to specify a direction which the arrow and fireball ammo would spawn. They would also need to have a velocity applied respective to that direction once they spawn. Depending on which weapon was picked up, it would either add ammo text next to the icon or hide it. When fired, depending on the ammo picked up, the script would either subtract from the ammo or the magic bar. The last part to implement was to add ammo pickups, which enemies or destroyed boxes would drop. Depending on the setup, the ammo would either add to the magic bar or subtract 5 units to the weapon's inventory, as seen in the items, as opposed to the player script as shown before. This concludes my work for this week. Here's a working example of the player and the 2 new weapons. I pick up the bow, and now when I press Alt, I can fire, and as you can see, it's damaging the player. If I pick up the ammo, you can see it goes to 14. I can pick up the magic rod. You can see it's shooting a fireball and reducing the magic. If I can actually hit the slime, he's dead. I don't know if you could see that or not, but and pick up magic and that replenishes. Thank you, and see you guys all next week.